How's it going, guys? Hope you're doing great. Welcome back to another video. This is the second video in a series of how to make what's known as a rubber ducky or a bad USB out of a small DigiSpark Arduino board that you can carry around in your pocket, and allows you to just plug it into a computer and create a reverse shell backdoor to that computer from anywhere in the world. Super simple to use, a little bit complicated to set up. So if you haven't seen my first video of how to do this setup, make sure to go check that out. I'll have that pop up here, or you can check out my original video to see a brief demonstration of how this will work when it's finished. First, I want to make sure I give you a quick disclaimer. This video and everything that I teach you in this video and in this series is for educational purposes only. Make sure that if you are going to test this on any computer, that if it's not your own computer, you have the owner's permission to use it and they're aware of what you're going to do with it. Or just do testing on your own computers. Everything that I do in this series is just being demonstrated on my own computers. I just enjoy playing around with this stuff. I think it's important to help people understand how this works so that we can have a more secure world with cybersecurity. And so just make sure that you are being responsible and intelligent about how you use this. This is just immensely complicated. Remember, there are so many people that are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just to prevent people from doing stuff like this. So this is not easy. There are so many loopholes you have to find. You got to dig and you have to know what you're looking for, and it just takes trial and error and patience. And so I am happy to dig into this with you guys, but I do ask that you be patient with me and let's figure this out together. So anything else that is missing from this video that you want to know how to do, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to make another video. All I ask is that you subscribe and leave a like so that I know that you like this video and you want to see more videos like this. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. So first of all, in a brand new Arduino sketch, you'll have these two functions. You'll have your setup and loop. And people have their own opinions about how to do this. I often like to use loop when I'm trying to build something that's for hacking. All right, first of all, up here at the top, I'm going to do pound or hashtag include digikeyboard.h. And then that's going to include the library for us to be able to code for our DigiSpark. And there's a couple of other dependencies, but I'm just going to get to those kind of in chronological order so it makes sense. So what I was saying about these functions here, the setup and loop, is that when you are hacking, when you're trying to make sure that your DigiSpark, that your bad USB or your Rubber Ducky will actually take control of a computer, it may not work the first time because Arduino just spits out commands. It spits out what you tell it to, without any regard to what the computer's actually doing or if the computer's keeping up. And so sometimes it's nice to repeat the commands again in case the first time wasn't successful. But for the sake of this demonstration, I only want it to run once. And you can always just unplug and then plug the DigiSpark back in again if it didn't work the first time. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that loop because I'm not going to use it right now. And let's just clear that up. Okay, first of all, I always like to make sure that my DigiSpark has a connection to the computer. So I just go ahead and give it a half-second delay to make sure that the computer has actually recognized that it has been plugged in and all that, just to avoid other problems. You may not need this. You can test it, do your own testing to see if you actually want to include this. But DigiKeyboard dot delay and then 500, and this is in milliseconds, so that's a half second, and you'll want to always end your line with a semicolon. And then next, what I'm going to do is digikeyboard dot send keystroke 0, and that's going to just make sure that it is starting from a clean slate in case you unplug it and then plug it back in and it didn't finish its last the last time you plug it in, is just to make sure that it is resets the keyboard basically before it decides to execute these commands. Something you don't, if that doesn't make sense, that's fine. Okay, and then next, I wrote a function which I'm going to just create down here real quick called launch PowerShell. So void launch PowerShell. Now I'm going to make this function because all of our commands are executed through PowerShell. So when you plug in the DigiSpark, the way it's going to work is it will launch a PowerShell as an admin, launch a PowerShell window, and it will execute these commands within the PowerShell. So we're going to call this function, and I'm going to actually provide the code for that in just a second. Okay, then here is kind of the beginning of the trick of making a DigiSpark work for this, because DigiSparks do not have enough memory to save all of these commands. And so this is something that I had to figure out by myself through a lot of just digging to figure out how to make it actually remember the entire sketch. Because the sketch, when you, and this is the sketch, this program that I'm writing, that's what it's called. When you click upload, initially my problem was that it would not actually save to the DigiSpark because there was not enough memory on it. And so in very simple terms, this isn't actually what it's called, but Arduinos have basically the equivalent of kind of like how a computer has a hard drive and RAM. Your RAM is temporary memory, and then your hard drive is saved memory. The Arduino does not have enough RAM to save all of the commands in it that it needs to execute. And so what I'm going to show you right here is what I have created to be able to tell it to save the commands into its equivalent of the hard drive, and that saves some space in the sketch. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to do right here at the top const progmem in caps char str0, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to make a list. I'm going to be making a list of strings right here, and we're going to save this into the Arduino's memory. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to need 3 of those, so I'll just paste that. And then right here, to be able to access my list of these strings, I'm going to type const char star, sorry, that's an asterisk, asterisk const string underscore table progmem equals str0, str1, str2, and I'm going to go ahead and change the names of these to match what I have in that list. So str1 and str2. Okay. You also want to do char buffer 300. There we go. So that's the basic setup to be able to save the commands into the Arduino's memory without running out of space. So let's go ahead and actually type those commands. I actually have them saved right here in this notepad. I'll give this to you guys. So first one, this is the first command I'm going to put right here. Set MP preference, disable real-time monitoring, true. And so this disables the Windows Defender antivirus, which is the antivirus software that comes pre-installed on Windows. And I'm setting this up to run on a fresh Windows install. I can't guarantee it's going to work on other computers, and it probably won't work with other antivirus softwares, but there's always a way around it. And if you guys are interested and curious and you want to be able to make it work with other antivirus softwares, let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to make another video, because this is fun for me to be able to figure out how to get around stuff. So next up, we've got set execution policy unrestricted. And so this command will tell the computer to enable malicious scripts running in PowerShell. It sets it to unrestricted, so it doesn't actually check whether the script that you're trying to run is malicious. And that will allow us to run our reverse shell code. And then next, this is the big long one that is the reason that we can't just save it to the Arduino's memory, the DigiSpark's memory. There it is. So yeah, I'll just scroll here. You can see how long that is. It's really long. Now, this right here, this is the IP address that your victim computer will connect back to. So you'll want to make sure that this is the IP address of your Kali Linux machine or whatever you are listening on. And I'll show you later how to double check what your IP is, but this is the IP address, and then this is the port that you'll be connecting on. Now, the way that I have it set up right now is that this will only work on your LAN or your local network, your local Wi-Fi, Ethernet, whatever. So this right now will not work for anywhere else in the world. I'm going to make another video about how to be able to do it from anywhere in the world through a tunnel. That's another part that I just had to figure out by myself to make this DigiSpark code work. Just for the sake of keeping this video relatively short, I'm going to only have it work on the local area network, and make sure you subscribe if you want to see that other video. And like this video so that I can know that you want to see that. I'd really appreciate it. It also helps with the YouTube algorithm. So let me know if you do want to see how to do that, and I'd be more than happy to show you how to do that. Okay. Next up, after we have our DigiSpark set up and ready to go, I'm back here under the setup function, under send keystroke. We're going to go ahead and call, I didn't realize I didn't call that yet. We're going to call launch PowerShell. And I'm still going to hold off on that for just a second on what we're going to put in that function. We're going to go ahead and call our first string. We're going to, call the function that will type this first string as a keyboard. So we actually need another function here, and I'm also going to just copy and paste this function, which I'll give you guys. It's just a bit much to be typing right here on this demonstration. So there it is. Now we're going to call this function, DESC, and we're going to want to give it this first string first, which I labeled as 0. And then we'll want to do DESC1. Now, as I said, this first one disables the Windows Defender antivirus. The second one will enable malicious scripts to be run in PowerShell. Sometimes, depending on the version of Windows you're running, it will prompt you to verify what kinds of malicious scripts you want to allow, or just not specifically malicious. It'll just ask what kinds of scripts you want to allow or how many checks you want to do. And if that happens for you guys, let me know in the comments. I'll make another video about how to get around that. It's a few more lines of code, but once again, just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to not include that here because it works for me without it. So then we'll want to call DESC2, and that is our reverse shell string. After that's run, you have a connection, and it's basically done. You can be done if you want. In my original script, I actually had a few more lines of code that would minimize the window of PowerShell So it was just hidden in the background so that it was you couldn't see it, and the victim wouldn't be able to tell that you were in control of the computer because it was running in the background. But I'm not going to include that here, once again, just to keep it short. If you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to make another video. Okay, now we're going to go down here to our launch PowerShell function. And we want to launch the PowerShell as an administrator so that we can execute all these commands and have it be successful. So the way that you can do that is on a normal keyboard, you hit the Windows key, and while you're holding that down, you hit X. I'll just demonstrate it here. And then right here, you can see about halfway down in this menu that pops up, you have the option to launch PowerShell as an admin. And so if you just hit A, it'll do that. One other thing about how I have this set up is when I set up my brand new Windows install to run this code, I didn't set a password. It's just a normal blank Windows install, no password, not logged into Microsoft or anything like that. And so it doesn't actually prompt for if you want to run it as an admin because there is no password. This code won't work if you want to run it on a computer that has a password, but if you guys want to know how to do that, just let me know once again, and I'd be happy to make another video. So we're going to dig into the launch PowerShell function, and we're going to start with digikeyboard dot send keystroke, and this is how you'll tell it to hold down the Windows key at the same time that it's pressing the X button. So the first one that we give it is actually the second one that's pressed, which is funny, but key underscore X comma mod underscore GUI underscore left. And the mod GUI left is actually the Windows key. Now, to be able to make those accessible, we'll actually have to go back up here to the top. And while I'm up here, I forgot we need to also include avr/pgm space .h, and that is what we need for all of this stuff that we did right here. Sorry, that right there, to save that to the memory. Okay, moving on. So Windows key and then the X key. Next, we'll want to give it a delay because the computer doesn't do things instantly. Computers are fast, but they're not quite fast enough for the DigiSpark. So we'll do digikeyboard dot delay. We'll just give it a half second once again. And as you can see here, if you're running this on a fast computer, you can make this run a lot faster than what I demonstrate on my video, just by removing these delays. These delays are just so that the computer can actually keep up with the DigiSpark. Next, we'll do digikeyboard dot send keystroke key underscore A. And remember, that's once again when you do the Windows X and then you'll hit A, that tells it to launch PowerShell as an admin. After that, of course, we'll want to delay once again. I'm just going to copy this one and paste it right here. And I'm actually going to delay a little bit longer because it's actually opening PowerShell, and to launch that, sometimes it takes a little bit more than a half second. Then we'll want to, and here I'll just make mention real quick that a moment ago I said that if your computer didn't have a password on it, that it wouldn't prompt before launching PowerShell as an admin, but I was wrong about that. It does still ask you, it just doesn't require a password. So we still need to tell it yes to that prompt. And we can do that by holding down the Alt key and then hitting Y, which will select yes that you want to launch it. So real quick, just digikeyboard. It's kind of hard to say it at the same time that I'm typing it. Dot send keystroke. and then key, oops, it all needs to be caps. Key underscore Y, comma, mod, alt, left, semicolon. Okay. And then we'll just give it another delay. Oh, I should still have that copied actually. There we go. And let's just delay it a second. And all these delays I've just come up with for my own trial and error, just testing it out to see what's required. Sometimes you give it a delay, and remember that this 1000 is 1000 milliseconds, so that's 1 second. You just need to test it out, see what works, how fast your computer is, and if it can keep up with your DigiSpark. So this function right here, this launch PowerShell, this is complete. And this will launch the PowerShell when you call it from up here. And that should be basically it. So I'm going to go up here and click verify, and it's going to have you save this before it actually verifies the code. I'm just going to save it as reverse shell. Okay, saved. It says down here, compiling sketch. Oops, error compiling for board DigiSpark. Okay, there we go. We got that error fixed. So what I said at the beginning of the video that you don't need a loop, that was misleading. Apparently you do need it, or else it won't even compile in the Arduino IDE. So I just have a blank loop function here after the setup. So just don't delete that, or if you're watching the video and typing this as you go, just go ahead and add that now. There doesn't need to be anything in it. It can just be the one line like that. As long as you have a loop function, it'll compile. So there I just hit the verify again, and it says done compiling. Great job if you've made it this far, guys. The code we wrote today was pretty basic, but it's a good foundation to build on, and it should at least have the basic functionality to open a reverse shell connection from within the same network. So in the next video in this series, we'll set up Kali Linux on a different computer to be listening for a connection with Netcat, and we'll need to make some small changes to this code that we wrote today in order to make sure we're connecting back to the right IP address. So since I've already shown you in my previous video how to upload the sketch to the DigiSpark, I'm not going to show that here, but I'll have a little link pop up on the video now in case you need to see how to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope this was helpful. I hope I covered everything I needed to. As you go through the steps in this video, you may come across some errors. That's just kind of the nature of this beast. Let me know in the comments what you come across, and I'd be happy to make some follow-up videos or just answer your comments about how to actually take care of those error codes. Of course, Google is your best friend in this instance. Try and do some research yourself, but let's have a little bit of fun doing this together, and remember, this is all trial and error, and you kind of just have to be patient and work through it and figure it out. So thanks again, guys, for watching the video. Make sure you leave a thumbs up. I really appreciate it, and it helps with the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe for future videos. I'm going to be coming out with a few more in this series that will add some extra features onto this code. So make sure you subscribe and you turn on the notifications for that. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.